Together again, huh?
Wouldn't miss it.
How are we doing?
Same as always.
That bad, huh?
I have a really bad feeling about this.
It's a trap!
Well then, we're back. It's the new year. And it's both of us. Hot Wampa episode, what are we, 39 now?
39, yeah, almost catching up with our real ages.
I know, we're getting on here. It's good to be back to the normal formula. This is our first show done solely by Skype. So this is a bit of a shot in the dark, really, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, just to check the audio quality and what else we can do, really. It's a good experiment, I think.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, recording time, as it always is limited to both of us. So whatever this ends up being will have to go out as it is to our listeners. So our apologies to that if there's tech glitches with that. But it's something we've got to look to work through and work out how it all works. Housekeeping shout-outs. We're nominating in the Star Wars Podcast Awards 2017, aren't we?
Yeah.
And we're trying to get ourselves into the People's Choice category. We've made several calls, as it was, for people to go onto the website and nominate us. I shall put the website in the metadata for this podcast. As far as we're aware, so far, people that have nominated us are Aidan Clark, Laura Patricia Harvey, and Chris Vince. There's possibly more looking at the number of likes, but likes are a difficult measure, aren't they? Yeah,
I like a whole manner of different things on Facebook, for example. So it doesn't mean I really like it or how interested I am, I think Stephen Waterhouse has also voted for us in the People's Choice.
So we've got a few that we know that have, plus a few that are possibles. I think we need to ask our listeners to get onto that website and nominate us in the People's Choice category. Put it out to them. I mean, and not just our listeners. If you've got several smart devices at home, several people's accounts, several different IP addresses, go onto them and nominate us as well, because this thing ain't identifiable. They don't know who's doing it. If you just set up your granny's new iPhone for her, go onto her account and nominate us from that as well. They don't know that your granny doesn't listen to Hot Wampa.
I can see you going down the Apple store again, Dave, and changing all their data.
I'm sure most of our listeners are the fact that I went round and actually subscribed all the ones they were selling to Hot Wampa. Aggressive marketing techniques, The thing is, we're a bit of a small, plucky little British podcast, and we'll be in this against heavyweights from America. And as we know, podcasting is much better understood and much better supported in America. I mean, they love the daytime digital streaming radio out there. Podcasts form a big part of that. So if you want your plucky little British underdog to go in there amongst the big boys, we'll be like a rampant Anglo-Saxon pair of tomcats in there amongst the rebel colonists trying to keep the British end up, If you want me and Mark up there to muddy their red carpet with our Fenland wellies, then, it's only going to happen if people go onto that thing and nominate us. It's the Star Wars Podcast Awards 2017, and like I said, we're aiming for the People's Choice category. I will put the links into the metadata for this podcast. It's also all over our social media. We've hit you up on our emailing list for those of you with the link. So far Chris has done it from there, but Chris is pretty reliable anyway. You've all got to do it. Come on. And like I said, get everyone else with some sort of internet account. It doesn't matter who they are, sister, brother, husband, wife, whatever. Kids, smartphones, steal it off them and nominate us through that. Help us out. Let's see if we can get in there and get somewhere. To be honest, mate, if we even get nominated, I'll be happy about it.
Yeah, they say nomination is just as valuable as picking up the award. I mean, where would we have to go if we were nominated, Dave?
I don't know. I mean, if it's in America, I don't know. I guess they'll have to pay and fly us out there.
Yeah.
We'll put our bow ties and tuxedos on and go up there and try not to, be too politically incorrect up there on the podium as we pick up the golden microphone or whatever it is.
Still with our wellies on there, so, we'll get some good photos.
But like we've said, it's not going to happen unless people nominate us. So, it will cost you nothing to nominate us. You don't need to leave any personally identifiable data behind. It doesn't ask for a name or an email address. It works on IP addresses, which is why I suggested different devices and different accounts. It will take you a minute of your time. So if you're a listener, and we know there's enough of you to make a difference, if you act, well, like I said, unless people act, it won't happen. Nominate us through as many accounts as you can do. We're not above that level of corruption to win something. And send your own podcast, your own British Bulldogs in there to keep the British end up amongst the heavyweights of American streaming daytime radio. It's patriotic duty, really.
You're making us sound like James Bond.
Yeah, I might actually put the Dam Busters soundtrack or something over my little piece there. I'm not too sure.
Parachuting in, I can imagine it.
Yeah. Well, things we do for Queen and Country.
Indeed.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Hot Wampa, making Flash Gordon look like James Corden.
Okay, I think we need to have a bit of a discussion about the late, great John Hurt. We've lost him recently. I've got a few notes on John. So John Vincent Hurt, CBE, 22nd of January 1940 to the 25th of January 2017, was an English actor whose career spanned 6 decades. He initially came to prominence for his supporting role as Richard Rich in the film A Man for All Seasons in 1966. After this, he played leading roles as John Merrick in David Lynch's biopic The Elephant Man in 1980, Winston Smith in a version of 1984, made in 1984, Mr. Braddock in the Stephen Frears drama The Hit, also in 1984, and Stephen Ward in the drama depicting the Profumo affair scandal in 1989. He's also known for his television roles such as Quentin Crisp in the television film The Naked Civil Servant, 1975, Caligula in I, Claudius, 1976, and the War Doctor in Doctor Who. Hurt's other films include the prison drama Midnight Express, 1978, the science fiction horror film Alien, 1979, the adventure film Rob Roy, 1995, the political thriller V for Vendetta, 2006, the supernatural thriller The Skeleton Key, 2005, the sci-fi adventure film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, 2008, the Harry Potter film series, 2001 to 2011, the Hellboy films, 2004 and 2008, and the Cold War espionage film Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, 2011. His character's final scene in Alien has been named by a number of publications as one of the most memorable in cinematic history. Recognised for his distinctive rich voice, he also enjoyed a successful voice acting career in films such as Watership Down, 1978, the animated The Lord of the Rings, 1978 also, The Black Cauldron, 1985, and Dogville, 2003, as well as the BBC television series Merlin. Didn't he narrate the dragon in Merlin?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. I mean, Sean Connery's narrated a dragon. I think John Cleese says as well. It's quite a prestigious role, a dragon, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems so. It's one for them big hitter actors. One of Hurt's last films is the biopic Jackie, 2016. He will next be in the 2017 film Darkest Hour as British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, due to be released in November 2017. Among his honours, he received 2 Academy Award nominations, a Golden Globe Award and 4 BAFTA Awards, with the 4th being a Lifetime Achievement recognition for his outstanding contribution to British cinema. He was knighted in 2015 for his services to drama. On the 16th of June 2015, Hurt publicly announced that he had been diagnosed with early-stage pancreatic cancer. He confirmed that he would continue to work while undergoing treatment and said that both he and his medical team were more than optimistic about a satisfactory outcome. Following treatment, Hurt stated that his cancer was in remission on the 12th of October 2015. Hurt died at his home in Cromer, Norfolk on the 25th of January 2017, 3 days after his 77th birthday. His death was announced 2 days later. Bit of a change there. I mean, obviously his cancer may have gone into remission, but sadly it reared its ugly head again and it claimed John Hurt.
Yeah, and as you know, you've gone through a distinguished career. I only found out the other day that he was kind of not local, but not too far away from us, really.
Cromer?
Yeah.
He's nearly in local news.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you made a comment earlier in the week on your Facebook status, something about him being a chameleon, and I think you probably hit it spot on there
Yeah.
because you couldn't tie John Hurt to any one type of character or any one type of role. He really was a sort of a jack of all trades when it came to acting, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he mentioned himself that he isn't exactly a leading man. He wasn't never a leading man, was he? He was that character that you could always go to and get a great performance from.
Well, you could claim that he played a leading role, I think, in 1984 as Winston Smith. I mean, he's the hero, well, not really
Yeah,
a hero, but he's the main character, the protagonist, whatever you want to call
and
him.
the Elephant Man as well. I mean, he's the central character. But I mean, there are plenty of good supporting characters in that one as well, isn't there?
Oh, with Michael Elphick and all sorts in that one, isn't there? It's hard to think when you look at the Elephant Man. It does really feel like a film that, I mean, I don't know whether it's the black and white palette and the definition it was shot in, but it really does feel like a film that was made 20 years earlier than it actually was.
Yeah, that's right. I think my favourite role, I remember him as the storyteller. Do you remember that? Jim Henson Productions. And he would sit on a big chair and read a story, and you would have like puppets and stuff like that around him. But his voice was really hypnotic, as a narrator. And I think we were about 14, 15 when that was on Channel 4. So that was a good series.
Yeah, I mean, he did do a lot of narration and voice acting work. He did have a really sort of defined voice, didn't he?
Yeah.
And like you say, though, it is difficult to really lock him into any one type of character or any one type of role. He wasn't an action actor as such, but to a degree he could accomplish action acting. A great character actor in whatever he did. I mean, as the executive officer Kane in Alien, I really did, get the impression that he was a kind of serious about his job, but still kind of working guy, and not above comedy either when he sort of cameoed that in Spaceballs later on. So
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Kane character, I think the curiosity and the wonder that he shows, when he's sort of crawling into that space where the eggs are, you really want him to go and look, of course, like he does, but, the sort of approaching fear, because you know what's going to happen, but great moment.
yeah, I mean, well, I guess he goes down in cinematic history as the first person effectively to be killed by the alien. But also in Alien, when the film opens, I mean, when we sort of see the Nostromo, the interior of it, and it's all sort of shut down, and there's just sort of systems running, and you've got the sort of mechanical hum in the background, and then it starts to come to life as the ship's computers receive that transmission. And of course, the doors slide open and the fans and everything on board the ship started. Brilliant sound design on Alien.
Yeah.
And they sort of show you the hibernation or the suspended animation chamber where all the crew are sort of cocooned in those chambers and those cylinders. And I think he's the first one that wakes up, and the camera actually focuses on him sort of sitting there half asleep in his sort of hibernation pod for quite a period of time before it then sort of the scene transitions to the mess room where they're all sitting around eating breakfast and drinking coffee kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of like the first person you see really in the film, and the camera focuses on him for quite a while.
And that's kind of, when we look at Aliens and they're coming out the stasis in Aliens, a lot of the actors have that same sort of, the expressions on their faces is as if they watched John Hurt's performance and sort of tried to replicate that.
Well, I guess for them, it was the only point of reference that they had to go for how they should look at that. This is what we did before and it seemed to work okay, so try doing that again. I think the scene with Hurt is more powerful because it's really only him that's sort of awoken up and sitting up at that stage.
Yeah.
I mean, the shot focuses on him. I mean, other notable roles is 1984. As Winston Smith in 1984. I am a bit partial to that. I mean, I'm not just because of John Hurt. Obviously, you've got Richard Burton in there as well, another great British actor who also had a very rich voice. Is it the best rendition of 1984, or am I biased simply because it's one of my favourite books? I'm not 100% sure. But, if there was an actor that you could just slot into that sort of prominent role, again, John Kane, it's John Hurt, sorry. What am I talking about, John Kane?
Well, Kane, yeah, the alien character, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're right. He's the everyman, in that role, isn't he? And, what's going on around him, I think he's quite relevant today, actually, so...
I think what it is with that rich voice, and it's quite compelling, is that he can describe the world around himself very well, and you listen to him. He sounds like someone you would listen to. I don't know that it's an authoritarian voice, but it's a voice that sounds like it's connected to an intelligence, you know?
Yeah, and in Lord of the Rings, the animated version, he was actually Aragorn. Of course, in the movies, it was Viggo Mortensen, who's quite pumped up, long hair, beard. He looks quite a tough character. But John Hurt managed to get into that role, obviously very different from the actual character. So.
Yeah, a great character actor. I mean, I haven't seen him in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I have to admit. It's hard, I mean, because the guy had such a long and illustrious career and performed so many roles and so many prominent roles. It's hard to pick out one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the only really consensus we can come to was that he was one of those great actors, and sadly we've lost him. This role as the War Doctor, I was, because I was doing a little bit of research on John Hurt last night prior to coming into this podcast, and I was flicking through a few pages on him, IMDb, Wikipedia, all the rest of it, all the standard sort of stalwarts that we go to. And I was reading, and I always got the impression that the War Doctor was an incarnation of a different Time Lord, a bit like the Master is, but he's not actually. It's a variation of the Doctor, isn't it?
That's right. Is he a past version of them?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get, because I'm not a massive Doctor Who fan, and obviously,
no, me neither.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't play it justice, but we have to assume that we've got listeners that perhaps are, and we don't want to insult them by wandering all over their territory without any knowledge. But again, it's another example of how you can just fit. He could just fit into another role. He was like, that shape puzzle. It doesn't matter what the shape was, you could make John Hurt fit that hole. Well, like you said, he was very comedian. He'd never stayed in one spot.
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly be watching a few of his films throughout this year. So.
Well, we've still got this Darkest Hour, where he plays Neville Chamberlain, to come in November. So we've still got. It's a bit like Carrie Fisher in a way, isn't it? We've still got this sort of film role of his to look forward to, and I think it's going to be a little bit bittersweet when it's up there on the screen for us.
Yeah, and obviously an iconic role, playing a prime minister. So, and I'm sure he'll do it justice.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine in that. I think if any actor could, again, it's John Hurt. Yeah, go on to some Star Wars news, I guess. I know our Carrie Fisher tribute has received quite a bit of recognition, hasn't it? People seem to have enjoyed listening to that.
Yeah, and I think you did it more than justice. You did Carrie Fisher more than justice there, because he's very poignant and it was very recent. And obviously, Star Wars is in people's minds again. So, what you said there, I think it moved many people as well. So,
you know what? To be honest, in retrospect, it was so tough to do that, because I found more than once that I had a lump in my throat, that my throat was dry, and it was it was quite an emotional show to record. But we got it, and people seem to appreciate it. And I've listened to a few other podcasts as well. Obviously, there's a lot of people have paid their tributes and stuff, and a lot of them are quite emotional and quite poignant, but I think ours is probably, one of the best at having a bit of a recap about Carrie and trying to focus on some of her moments. So I'm actually quite proud of that, what we put out there.
Well, wait until they hear that on the podcasting awards, Dave.
Yeah, well.
That could be the moment.
It could be the one. Okay, Star Wars news. Episode 8 has a title, The Last Jedi. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a safe title, isn't it?
You think?
Yeah, I mean, Jedi can be singular or plural.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're kind of like, okay, is it one or two? Is it Luke, and Rey, or are there more? We don't know.
Well, it could be. I mean, it could be an individual. It could be endless. Literally, like you say, it could be an entire culture of Jedi. It refers to.
Yeah.
Is there a bit of a joke in the lineage here? We've had The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. Is Episode 9 going to be called Then They Go Back to Bed Again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is this like a sentence? Is this like a bit of a gag? I know one of the concerns is that when people talk about Star Wars films, Typically, when we talk about, let's say, for example, The Empire Strikes Back, we'll refer to it as Empire. Instead of saying Star Wars, we'll say A New Hope. And when people talk about Return of the Jedi, it tends to get abbreviated to just Jedi when they talk about it. So we've got two here that could be potentially abbreviated to Jedi now. So we're going to have a different system, really.
Well, it's usually our American cousins who abbreviate the titles, I think. So it'll probably be TLJ or something like that.
That sounds quite cool. That sounds like an American footballer or something.
Yeah, it does. I think The Force Awakens is normally TFA, isn't it?
That's very true. Yeah, I suppose you could have the Phantom Menace, couldn't you? TPM or something like that, or you could just abbreviate that to Menace or what have you. Yeah. So, like you say, I think it's a safe title. I quite like the sort of pictures that are emerging of the title, where Star Wars is now in a red font with the Last Jedi in the middle of it, the same way as in The Force Awakens. We had the Star Wars lettering there and The Force Awakens between Star and Wars. It looks like quite cool, and I think, like you say, it's pretty safe. So
I associate the red title in with Return of the Jedi, though.
Do you?
Yeah, don't you remember, like on the figurines, the box, Return of the Jedi was in red.
Oh, I can't remember that far back now. I mean, if you say it probably was, but yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think we've had enough confusion amongst the mainstream about, where does Rogue One fit in? So if we've got two films with Jedi in the title like this, well, who knows?
Speculation about a trailer at the moment, Dave, because we got the Super Bowl tonight, haven't we, in the USA? And it's sort of a prime territory to release the new movie trailers. So, there might be a 30-second spot in there.
That wouldn't surprise me one little bit. They will wait till literally minutes after we've recorded and then put it out. I mean, we do have that sort of luck, don't we?
Yeah, it typically happens within hours, as you say.
So it'll be a fortnight before we actually talk about it or something. Who knows? I mean, we're due a trailer. I think The Force Awakens had a basic trailer out basically a year before its release. I can't remember now with Rogue One how long it took.
So we've probably got just over 10 months now to the release of The Last Jedi, haven't we?
Yeah, what is it? Kind of sort of mid to late December, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're into February now.
Star Wars Celebration this year is in Orlando in April, I believe. So April would be a good time to release a full trailer.
Yeah, they could do. I mean, they do try to sort of tie these things in with Celebration. I mean, they did obviously at Celebration Europe in London, but like most things done in this country, it was exclusive to a few people, or those of us that were stood right at the back had no chance of seeing or hearing it. So we don't do those sort of things very well here, or we do them exclusively for a few, but not for the bulk of fans, I think. Also, Star Wars news from outerplaces.com. This is from their correspondent, Johnny Brayson. It was posted on Monday, the 23rd of January. Woody Harrelson confirms predictions about his Han Solo role. Now then, did we just learn the identity of Woody Harrelson's top secret Han Solo movie character? It sure seems that way, after the actor appeared to confirm that he will be portraying Garris Shrike in an interview on Sunday. Speaking to Variety, the Hunger Games star was asked if he could confirm that he was indeed playing Han Solo's mentor in the upcoming Star Wars film, and the interviewer specifically mentions the name Garris Shrike. Harrelson asks her to repeat the question as she says, "Are you playing Garris?" and then trails off. After some hemming and hawing, Harrelson confirms that he is, though it's not completely clear if he was confirming that he's playing Shrike or if he was just confirming that he's playing Han's mentor. Check out the video for yourself below. Well, of course, I've got the video and the audio from that. Let's stick it in.
And Woody, we have to ask you a Star Wars question, because it's been revealed that you're the Han Solo mentor. Can you confirm that it's Garris Shrike? Or what can you tell us?
Confirm what?
That you're playing the character of Garris?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm hearing the phones of the lawyers at Star Wars ringing right now.
Think of Jeremy. Think of Jeremy.
Yeah, I am.
Now then, I guess that's open to interpretation what Woody Harrelson was saying there. For those trying to remember which Star Wars movie Garris Shrike is, you can give up. The character comes from the expanded universe, and he appeared in a number of Star Wars novels beginning with 1997's The Paradise Snare. He was a former bounty hunter who turned to a life of crime, raising a number of orphans to do his bidding. One such orphan was Han Solo, who eventually rebelled against Shrike's cruel hold over him. When Lucasfilm was bought by Disney a few years back, the expanded universe was declared non-canon, with the caveat that its characters could still show up in future Star Wars installments, which has already happened with characters like Thrawn in the animated Star Wars Rebels. So if Harrelson is indeed playing Shrike, he may not have the same backstory or personality that fans of those novels are familiar with, or Lucasfilm may decide to make him a more likeable mentor like his character in the Hunger Games. We'll probably have to wait until the movie comes out to know for sure. The untitled Star Wars Han Solo film hits theatres on May the 25th, 2018. Woody Harrelson as Garris Shrike. I'm a bit fascinated by this. I have read the 1997 novel The Paradise Snare. It was the first novel in a trilogy of novels based on a young Han Solo and trying to explain his backstory. Shrike is quite a ruthless and cunning character. It's a 20-year-old book now, whatever. It's no spoiler to say that he comes to a sticky end at the end of that first book before Han departs. It makes me wonder, there seemed to be this initial dismissing of the EU, and now it's becoming very canon. I mean, we're taking aspects of the old EU have already passed into animation with Star Wars. We have the character of Darth Bane, who moved into the Clone Wars, where he was voiced, I believe, by Mark Hamill. Mm-hmm. We had the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's morphed into Rebels. He originally came from the expanded universe.
I was about to say Saw Gerrera, yeah.
Yep, Saw Gerrera, who was in both the Clone Wars and in Rebels, has gone from that animation over to canon in Rogue One. I guess the animation is canon as well. And now it looks like Garris Shrike is possibly going to be making a similar journey. What do you think about that? I mean, I was thinking a bit about this today, and I was thinking that perhaps it's not quite our forte, that I was possibly going to send a voicemail off to the guys at Tarkin's Top Shelf podcast, because I know that Star Wars literature really is their forte, it's their thing. But it's interesting, I think that they're picking and choosing. If there's like a character shortage or a sort of writer's block or something, it makes me wonder if they're picking out from the EU to fill where they're having a problem in writing, or whether it's a deliberate choice to give older fans a bit of a nod.
Well, I think the people that are working there they have their own favourite characters themselves. And it's kind of like, getting permission now. Can we use this guy? He was great in this novel, or, in the past, in the comics, and could we incorporate them? And as we saw in Rogue One with, different features in Rogue One, they were happy to introduce them from the expanded universe. And, there were certainly some fanboy moments for everyone. So, I don't know Shrike as a character. I haven't read the book myself. Mm-hmm. The first thing I think of is the butcher bird, the Shrike, which impales its victims on spikes. So he doesn't sound a very friendly character, just from your description of him.
He's a small-time gangster. He's like a failed bounty hunter, and he's on Corellia. He's like a Corellian, and he runs all sorts of enterprises, various smuggling jobs. He's got orphans working for him as pickpockets and frauds, get the public sympathy on side and then rip them off and stuff like that. And Han Solo is one of these orphans who's basically in bondage to him. A young Han Solo eventually escapes, works as a mercenary freighter pilot, and eventually has the funds and the background and the exams, as it were, to get himself into the Imperial Academy. The day before he's due to go off and join the Imperial Academy, he runs into Shrike on Coruscant, and they have a bit of a standoff, and Shrike comes to a sticky end, and that's basically the novel The Paradise Snare. I don't know. Could Harrelson play that sort of role, do you think? Does he come across as an intimidating or gruff kingpin, a gangster?
We have to remember Natural Born Killers. He was very aggressive in that. And, of course, this year we got War of the Planet of the Apes coming out, where he does look like a bit of a, Apocalypse Now character.
You think so?
Yeah, where he's going in against the apes. So perhaps this
I
is
love the smell of napalm in the morning.
yeah, and this is probably maybe Woody's year to put on some face paint and get in the undergrowth. So
Possibly, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it won't do his career any harm. I mean, there you go. We'll have to see how that pans out. Oh, I'm going to do that, I'm going to send a voicemail off to those guys at Tarkin's Top Shelf this week once I've finished with this and see what they make of it, because it's really their forte, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Dave.
And obviously we can't put their audio into our show, but we can inform our listeners with what they come up about it.
Yeah.
Okay, another one on Star Wars here. This is by Ida Campuzano from the Oregon Live news website. It's dated December the 24th, 2016, so Christmas Eve. Deputies rescue man who fell asleep during Rogue One in Cornelius. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a plucky group of rebels stole the schematics for an Imperial superweapon and aided in the eventual downfall of a sinister empire. More recently, in a theatre a lot closer to wherever you're reading this, a man awoke from a screening of a historical reenactment of that effort alone and aching to find a way out. Washington County Sheriff's deputies early Saturday responded to a call from a man who had fallen asleep watching Rogue One, a Star Wars story, at the Cornelius Stadium cinemas. The man tried to leave the theatre through the lobby but set off a motion sensor alarm. He then called 911 and deputies helped him out through an emergency exit.
Brilliant. I don't know what's more embarrassing, Dave, like actually falling asleep in the theatre and calling the police, or admitting that you fell asleep in Rogue One, which I'm sure you're going to get a bit of grief from fanboys.
I don't know, unless the guy just went in there super tired to start with, the lights went down, it's a bit warm, he was comfy in the chair, and zoom, he was out of it. I wonder if it's a commercials thing, an adverts thing. I don't know if in America and in cinemas they have to sit through the obligatory 3/4 of an hour of gumph you get before watching any movie the way we do. There's been a few times when I've gone to watch movies and I've had to kind of wake up a bit once it's actually started because I've been bored senseless by all the rubbish they put on to start with.
I can remember 3 movies I fell asleep in. It was Very Bad Things, which was a Christian Slater, Cameron Diaz film. It was pretty poor. The Spirit, which was like a kind of follow-up to Sin City, the black and white sort of graphic novel style. Awful movie. And the second Jurassic Park film I fell asleep in.
Did you?
Yeah, I was really bored.
I didn't think that one was too bad.
I think it's probably another late night showing, and like ourselves, we went to see Rogue One sort of midnight, didn't we? And we managed to stay awake.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't sound good for the film though, does it? So it's great, wonderful. What happened? I don't know. I fell asleep watching it. I mean, with this guy, that's the genuine case. Like you say, it's probably a bit embarrassing for him. He's probably lost a bit of cred amongst his sort of, Star Wars fans that are mates. I'm sure the police had a good laugh about it. He probably had to explain himself. I don't know.
I had one problem, Dave. Do you know the West End pub? In Ely. One evening, I was walking back from Ely City Centre. I'd had a few beers, and I needed to use the facilities. And being a gentleman, I didn't want to sort of go up someone's front door or in an alleyway or anything. So I wandered into the West End, and it was quite late. So I found a toilet, and I used it. And on the way out, I realised that the landlord had locked all the doors, and I was the only person in the pub. He's quite a big chap, actually, so it was a bit scary as I walked out, and he confronted me and realised that I hadn't had a drink in there all night. I hadn't even been in the pub, and it basically told me to get out. And whenever I walk past now, he gives me a dirty look, so I haven't been back in there.
Well, I think to a degree you've kind of got to see it from his side.
Yeah.
And you've not been one of his customers all night, so he doesn't know quite who the hell you were. Then all of a sudden, after he's locked up and turfed everyone out, you're walking through his pub. I mean, it does look a bit suspicious, mate.
It does, yeah. Next time I'll have to phone the police to get me out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only embarrassingly fallen asleep once, and that was with me mate when he was driving through Cambridge on an evening, and it was one of them really hot summer balmy evenings, and I was in the front passenger seat, and it was roasting hot, so the windows were down, and I'd managed to somehow fall asleep with my foot up, hanging out of his car window out near his wing mirror. And he stopped at a junction, like a cross junction with some traffic lights, turn right. So we're in the right-hand lane, and there's like the left-hand lane alongside us.
Yeah.
and a convertible pulled up in that left-hand side lane. I didn't know about this, obviously, because I was asleep. And the old boy that was driving this convertible decided for a laugh to try and undo my shoelace where it was hanging out of my mate's car window.
Wow.
And that woke me up. So I wake up, my mate's cracking up that he's doing it. He's cracking up that he's doing it. I've just woken up, so I'm like an elephant with a sore head, and I'm telling this fella to F off and all the rest of it. But that's the only time I've ever sort of fallen asleep in a really embarrassing way that I can think of.
That's the thing, Dave. You're like Chuck Norris. You're always ready, aren't you? So to catch you off guard, you know.
I nearly was there when I woke up and found him trying to undo my shoelace. That's all I've got on Star Wars this week.
Well, I've got one more, just a small. It's from StarWarsNews.net, and it's just about Laura Dern, who's obviously in episode 8, and she's been praising Carrie Fisher and speaking about her episode 8 experience. So that's at StarWarsNews.net if you want to go and have a look at that, because it's quite an interesting thing. Because she's a bit of an alternative actress, isn't she? So this is a sort of a big mainstream film. Other than Jurassic Park, it's unusual to see her in this sort of role.
Yeah, I mean, Laura Dern, I mean, that's the only thing that really jumps out to mind with me is Jurassic Park straight away. I'm sure I must have seen her in a lot of different things, but for some reason it's her role in Jurassic Park that always comes to the front when I think about Laura Dern.
Yeah, I remember Ramblin' Rose, where she played a local promiscuous lady who had many lovers, and also Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage, where he had that snakeskin jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was the love interest in that, so...
Yeah, I don't know. She just feels a little bit generic to me. Nothing she's done really stands out to me. Yeah, I think she's a fine actress, and I'm sure she'll be okay in that role.
She may well be an alien. Who knows?
She could be. Oh, well, she could well be a CGI job. I mean, we're seeing this now. Where Andy Serkis does it on a regular basis for a living. What's his name? Alan Tudyk did it for Rogue One with the droid and stuff. I mean, it's becoming a more prominent thing. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what we'll get from Laura Dern. But like I said, she's always felt a bit of a generic actress to me. You know, nothing really outstanding about her, but kind of adequate for the roles.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see if she features in a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what she is. I mean, that obviously that'll get the community speculating and people talking about it and everything alive. Should we go on to do Showcase?
Let's do it.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to hear some serious shit. This is Hot Wampa.
Okay, Showcase. Spaceballs. 1987 American science fiction comedy parody film, co-written, produced and directed by Mel Brooks, starring Brooks, Bill Pullman, John Candy, the late John Candy I perhaps should say, and Rick Moranis. The film also features Daphne Zuniga, Dick Van Patten and the voice of Joan Rivers. I believe that's Dot Matrix. In addition to Brooks in a supporting role, the film also features Brooks regulars Dom DeLuise and Rudy DeLuca in cameo appearances. The film was released by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer on June the 24th, 1987 and was met with a mixed reception. It has since become a cult classic on video and one of Brooks' most popular films. Its setting and characters parody the original Star Wars trilogy as well as other sci-fi franchises including Star Trek, Alien and the Planet of the Apes films. Planet Spaceball, led by the incompetent President Scroob, has wasted all of its fresh air. Scroob schemes to force King Roland of the neighbouring planet Druidia to give them their heir by kidnapping his daughter Princess Vesper on the day of her pre-arranged wedding to the narcoleptic Prince Valium. Scroob sends the villainous Dark Helmet to complete this task with Spaceball 1, an impossibly huge ship helmed by Colonel Sanders. Before they can arrive, Vesper abandons her wedding and flees the planet in her Mercedes spaceship with her droid of honour, Dot Matrix. Roland contacts mercenary Lone Star and his Morg, half-man, half-dog sidekick Barth, offering a lucrative reward to retrieve Vesper before she is captured. Lone Star readily accepts as he is in major debt with the gangster Pizza the Hutt. In a Winnebago spaceship, the Eagle 5, Star and Barth are able to reach Vesper before Spaceball 1, rescue both her and Dot, then escape. Spaceball 1 tries to follow, but Helmet foolishly orders the ship to ludicrous speed, causing it to overshoot the escapees. Out of fuel, Star is forced to crash land on the nearby desert moon of Vega. The escapees travel on foot in blazing sun and pass out. They are found by the Dinks, a group of diminutive red-clad aliens, and are taken to a cave occupied by Yoga, who is old and wise. Yoga introduces Star to the Schwartz, a metaphysical power similar to the Force. Yoga also introduces the audience to the film's merchandising campaign. Star and Vesper begin to flirt, but Vesper insists she can only be married to a prince. Helmet and Sanders break the fourth wall using a VHS copy of the film to discover Vesper's location, and Helmet orders Spaceball 1 to the moon. The Spaceballs capture Vesper and Dot and return with them to planet Spaceball. Their captors threaten to reverse Vesper's nose job, forcing Roland to give over the code to the shield that protects Druidia. Helmet takes Spaceball 1 to Druidia, where he transforms the ship into Mega Maid, a giant robotic maid with a vacuum cleaner that begins sucking the air from the planet. Star and Barth rescue Vesper and Dot from captivity and then race to Druidia. When the vacuum bag is almost full, Star is able to use the Schwartz to reverse the robot's sucking action, returning the air to the planet. Star and his allies enter the Mega Maid in an attempt to destroy it. Star is forced to fight Helmet with lightsaber-like Schwartz rings near the ship's self-destruct button. Star manages to defeat Helmet, causing him to involuntarily strike the button. Star and his friends escape the ship while Scroob, Helmet and Sanders fail to reach any escape pods in time. Trapped in the robot's head as the ship explodes, they land on a nearby planet, much to the regret of its Planet of the Apes-like population. With Star's debt to pizza nullified by the gangster's untimely death, he returns Vesper to Roland and leaves, taking only enough money to cover his expenses. After a lunch break at a diner and a strange incident involving an alien and an astronaut, Star finds a final message from Yoga informing him that he is a prince and thus eligible to marry Vesper. He manages to reach Druidia in time to stop her wedding to Valium, announces his royal lineage, then marries Vesper. Spaceballs. What do you think? Hit or miss?
I think it was one of these I watched on video at a friend's house, probably in a 6 weeks holiday down Blackhorse Drove near Littleport. And yeah, I mean, I love Star Wars, of course. So this, for me, was almost a kicking sand in my face. But at the same time, it was hit and miss. I mean, there are funny moments. And the plot, it doesn't just rip off Star Wars. It's many different films, as you said. So, yeah, I mean, looking back on it now, it has dated. But you kind of nostalgically, it's a good spoof of a film that we love, or films that we love.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a few cameos in there. Some are credited, some aren't. John Hurt, obviously, who was lost recently, he reprises his the chestburster scene in the intergalactic diner there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
After eating the special.
Probably one of the highlights of the film.
Yeah, possibly. And like you say, what's his name from Logan's Run, York.
Yeah, York. Yeah.
Michael York. He's got that cameo as one of the apes on horseback on the beach near the end, where the Mega Maid's head comes down like the Statue of Liberty.
That's right. And Michael York was also a voice on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So there's a nice connection there. But I mean, Logan's Run's right for a remake, isn't it?
I think that's something we'll probably have to look at some time in future. It's a film I like. It's a little bit dystopian and a little bit dark, and I think you're a bit of a fan of it as well, aren't you?
I am, because I think it would solve today's population crisis. So, but I'm not going to suggest genocide. But
what age would you suggest we all cap ourselves at?
I think 40. I mean, but it's different for me. I'm not a parent, Dave. So that's the difficult dilemma, isn't it?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, my time's up then.
Mine was as well a couple of years, a year and a bit ago.
Yeah, so it's got all these little cameos in there, a few funny moments. It's got Matey from Police Academy, isn't it? I never remember the guy's name. Michael Winslow, that's it. You can do all the audio sounds. He imitates a radar screen at one time.
That's right. And I think Mel Brooks actually said he's on a DVD commentary that he saved him a couple of $1,000 by doing more sound effects.
Yeah, Bill Pullman's performance in it, nothing too outstanding, is it really?
Well, Bill Pullman here, he was a likable guy, wasn't he? I mean, he's still a good actor. But
Uh-huh.
when Independence Day really watered down his previous work for me, as the president, it was a bit schmaltzy. Um, but there is a few good films, like The Last Seduction he did. And that was a great film with Linda Fiorentino. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
seen that, Dave, but yeah,
No.
so he can do serious as well, But in this one, he plays it for laughs, and I think he's quite a good comedy actor.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think you're putting him up against comedy greats in this, people like John Candy and Rick Moranis and that. So I think possibly in comedy, I don't know, he's an adequate actor to me for this. I think John Candy's character as Buff, or the late great John Candy, we should refer to him as, perhaps opening scene of him is dancing around to Bon Jovi's "Raise Your Hands," eating a big old bucket of dog food. Quite a fun character. Dot Matrix, obviously a take on C-3PO.
Yeah, Joan Rivers is the voice, as you said. I can't remember who plays the actual body, but there's two actresses there, isn't there?
Yeah, easy.
Who else? Phil Hartman as well. He's one of the dinks.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, Phil Hartman's famous for The Simpsons. He played Troy McClure, and he passed away a few years ago. But he was in Fletch Lives, Bill and Ted's animated series, Loaded Weapon 1. Do you remember that? That was a National Lampoon's one with Samuel Jackson.
Was that a bit of a spoof kind of
That
thing
was a
as well?
spoof, yeah. Emilio
Yeah.
Estevez and Samuel Jackson.
Oh, of course, yeah. Now
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now, yeah.
Spoof on the Lethal Weapons series. And also he was in CB4, which was quite a funny film about rappers sort of in the mid-90s. And he sort of just
Uh-huh.
played the music industry in Los Angeles at that time. So, yeah, he'd been in a few films. What about Daphne Zuniga? Because, she didn't really spring to mind as a prominent actor in that era. So,
I don't know. Is she a prominent actor today?
no, she's still working.
Yeah.
She was recommended for The Fly 2 by, I believe, Rick Moranis. So,
Uh-huh.
the first Fly film was with Gina Davis.
Uh-huh.
And she turned up as the lead female character in that. Also, The Outer Limits. And later on, in 2008, she reprised her role as Princess Vesper in the Spaceballs animated series.
How on earth did this become big enough to get its own spin-off animation?
I know, and you've got Mel Brooks, you've got Rick Moranis, you've got Joan Rivers, and a lot of the original actors are in the series, which I haven't seen. So
No, I haven't seen it either. I was aware that they had made it, but I hadn't seen it. Mel Brooks' own cameo in this, Scroob, I believe he also plays Yogurt.
yeah, that's right. Both
That's
sides.
hard to say, isn't it? It should be just saying yogurt.
Yeah, well, it depends which side of the Atlantic you're on, I guess.
Yeah, the one that invented the language. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know really that he adds much to it. I find the bit where he shows them the Spaceballs merchandising store quite funny. I mean, there's a few good gags in this. You get the feeling that the film doesn't take itself too seriously.
Well, interestingly, I found out that all the merchandise that's in the film with Spaceballs on is actually Transformers merchandise, and they just slapped on a Spaceballs sticker. Yeah, so that's how they got it all.
Even Spaceballs, the toilet paper.
Probably, yeah.
Could you get Transformers toilet paper then?
I don't know.
Would they just be sticking like a sticker on some Andrex or something?
Something
That was some poor YTS kid's job, to go through every sheet of ply in the toilet roll and put a Spaceball sticker on there.
I'm sure it was one of his favourite roles.
Oh dear.
Sorry, bog standard joke.
Yeah, that was going to be my next gag.
I think these days.
Every ship in this has a bumper sticker on the back. Do you know what they all are?
I read it earlier. Go on. What is it?
I think on the back of Spaceball 1, it's "We Stop for No One."
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is on the back of the Mercedes, and I think it's something like "We Love Oranges" or something like that on the back of the Eagle 5, but they've all got a bumper sticker on them. I'm sure someone could actually get in touch with us and tell us what they are, or correct us as to what they are. I watched it last night on quite a low definition version of the internet, so it wasn't the best quality, and I couldn't actually read it. Yeah.
Music in this is by a chap called John Morris.
There's all sorts of artists in the soundtrack to this.
I think to compete with John Williams, you're just going to have to go for a full-on soundtrack with a bit of Van Halen and Bon Jovi and Berlin. And
Berliner
Pointer
in there,
Sisters. Yeah. So I think
I think Berlin are the ones that are playing on Vespa's headphones when she takes them off in the Mercedes spaceship thing.
Right. Yeah, and
And
that's a song called Heartstrings.
I think so. It's quite fast when we think of sort of what Berlin's typical sort of ballady type numbers would be. When she takes off those sort of Princess Leia type hair buns, doesn't she? And it
That's
turns out
right,
they're
yeah.
headphones. I want to get a pair of them to record this podcast.
It'd be good in the winter as well.
They're quite good. Yeah, we probably get pretty hot in the summer. Overall, Spaceballs. What do you think? I mean, like you say, I think a bit like most of Mel Brooks' things, it's a little bit hit and miss. It's not my favourite Mel Brooks movie.
What would that be, Dave?
For me, probably Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh, yeah, that was with Carrie Ells, wasn't it?
Yeah. The bit with the stick fight over the ditch, it just kills me every time I watch it. I literally laugh so much it physically hurts me. And it really always stands out to me for that moment. You got things like Blazing Saddles, obviously quite early on in his film career.
The producers, I think, have probably made him the most money, because you got film, theatre, then back to a modern film. So I think, he's made a few quid out of that.
I think for its time as well, it had some quite clever jokes, literal jokes, like when using a VHS copy of the film to see what happens later on to catch the people and all the rest of it. I think it's got some quite clever jokes as well as some quite poor ones. Like you say, I think it is a bit hot and cold. I think it is a little bit hit and miss.
I think and the source material being like Star Wars in general and sci-fi movies, that really sort of holds it up today. Because if you look at films that were made, I don't know, in the 90s, like Not Another Teen Movie or Superhero Movie, or these films, that are parodying things. If you look at them now, you've got like politicians and topical things that were interesting at the time. But now, if you're a teenager watching it, you wouldn't have a clue. They're not really interesting today. But Spaceballs, I think, it's a sci-fi movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of fits them. It's timeless in that regard. I mean, you do have to be careful that you're not too relevant, I think, to the time you filmed in when you make a film. If you want your film to be timeless as such. A little bit more, obviously, you've mentioned the Star Wars themed opening crawl, which closes with the line, "If you can read this, you don't need glasses."
Yeah.
It takes forever for the Spaceball ship Spaceball 1 to pass by. Dark Helmet wears a tie that resembles a phallus as part of his costume, just underneath the front of his helmet. I'm sure you noticed that.
Yeah.
Barth is listening to Bon Jovi's Raise Your Hands when we first meet, as we've discussed it. And the Eagle 5 is based on the Winnebago camper van. A few other sort of character actors there in this. Tim Russ plays one of the Spaceballs soldiers. Tim Russ would obviously became a bit more famous later on when he would take the role of Lieutenant Commander Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager. He was that guy.
Right.
So obviously he went on to have a bit more of a deeper acting career than what he did in Spaceballs, which was, I guess, a bit of a job for the money. It's got that classic Mel Brooks thing where it all breaks down at the end. I mean, it's like at Blazing Saddles when it comes out of the set and spills onto the lot, and there's all sorts of actors and genres all sort of mashing together in that sort of big crowd, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I have to say, Dave, Young Frankenstein is my favourite Mel Brooks film.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant, with Gene Wilder and Terry Garr and, and Marty Feldman, the eagle with the movable hump. I mean, and that breaks down at the end. It ends up in like a cabaret, doesn't it, with a Frankenstein's monster sort of on stage singing and stuff. So.
This is a little bit similar, isn't it? It's got all sorts of people running around on Spaceball 1 at the moment. They give the order to abandon ship, hasn't it? It's got bears and clowns and God knows what. A fat bearded lady, various extra cast members just running about. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a, I don't know, is every Mel Brooks film the same? It just puts it in a different setting.
Yeah, and he's attacked Robin Hood. There was Dracula Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen. So this sci-fi with Spaceballs, we've kind of gone through every genre, I think, haven't we?
The Western, obviously, with Blazing Saddles early on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard, really, to pick out something really to talk about. I mean, what facts have you got on it?
Well, Rick Moranis suggested John Candy for the role of Barth. Rick Moranis is kind of retired, hasn't he? I think he finished acting in 2007. He just became disillusioned with it.
Right.
So George Lucas liked the script for the film so much that he decided to have ILM help make the film. So, he obviously, I don't know, I guess it's a labour of love. A lot of it is dedicated to Star Wars. And I guess he saw it as a sort of homage more than anything.
Well, I guess this is 1987. At that time, Lucas had no real plans to go back to Star Wars, so he probably thought, yeah, we'll just make a spoof of it and have a laugh. You know what I mean? I've done it. I've put my thing out there now. Do what you like with it.
Yeah, it's either finance this or do Howard the Duck too. So,
oh God. Yeah.
Howard the Duck actually turned up in the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. So whether they're going to resurrect the duck, who knows?
Oh, I hope not.
The Millennium Falcon makes an appearance in an exterior shot of the space diner.
Does it?
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, I didn't realise that. I saw the Winnebago there parked up outside, but I didn't realise that was up there on the parking ramp somewhere.
Would you fancy going on a trip across the States in the Winnebago?
Would I do it? Yeah, I'd love it. We might have to anyway to pick up our podcasting award.
Yeah, it'd be like
Paul.
National Lampoon's Vacation. I can hear it now. Holiday Road.
Or like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in Paul.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We're driving through the sort of extraterrestrial desert highway at night or something. We'll pick up a grey alien and end up on an adventure. Yeah, it's hard really to sort of, like I said, really to open the film up and talk about it because it is what it is. I mean,
it took Mel Brook 6 months to write the script, which I find quite shocking, really.
Really?
6 months, yeah. Someone who's talented and experienced like he was at the time, it's sort of, how hard is it to make write a parody?
I don't know. Really, you've just got to make variations on the material that's already out there for you. Yeah, I mean, it's got some clever jokes. I don't know.
The bath costume was operated by 3 people.
Right.
It was powered by a 30-pound battery pack. I mean, John Candy was a big bloke, but it must have been quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been pretty hot in that thing as well to film that. I don't know where the desert scenes were filmed.
I believe it was in California.
It's California, right? So they weren't under the sort of blazing Tunisian sun or anything like that.
No, actually, it was Yuma, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah, famous for its westerns. So maybe Blazing Saddles was shot there, and sort of Mel Brooks decided to go back.
Yeah, and comb in the desert.
One of the Dinks is played by Tony Cox, who is also an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. So you've got another small Star Wars link there. Steve Martin was the original choice for the character Colonel Sanders.
Uh-huh.
That's a funny joke when Rick Moranis asks if he's chicken, so a nice little takeaway. The Wilhelm scream is used in this film when Barth holds up the curved tubes, deflecting the shots of the bad guys. The full one hits him in the backside, and he uses the scream then. At the end of... have you seen The History of the World, Part 1?
No.
No, that's another Mel Brooks film, which I haven't seen either. But at the end of it, he says, "What next? Jews in space." So, it was obviously something at the back of his mind in 1981. So, what else? Spoofs in the film, other than sci-fi, we've got The Phantom of the Opera, The Wizard of Oz, Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Fantastic Voyage, Star Trek TV series, as you said, Planet of the Apes in 2001. So they've all sort of been spliced in there somewhere. Other than that, I mean, President Scrooge's name is an anagram of Mel Brooks also. So.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Well, Brooks, anyway, yeah. So, what do you think, Dave? Out of 10, how many points would you give Spaceballs?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
6.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you there. I think it's around there. I think it's, as I said, it's hit and miss. I don't know if it was a guilty pleasure, as we said, but it's one of those films that you can stick on and watch it, and you'll have a little chortle to yourself now and then. But it's not one that's going to be on the top shelf of your DVD collection.
It's not one I would go out my way to get hold of. No. Well, there you go. I mean, really, we haven't got much more on Spaceballs.
No, that's Spaceballs.
Okay, let's get rid of that and get on to the stuff that people really tune in for. Okay, local news. From the Ely Standard website dated 17th of January 2017, their correspondent, Kath Sansom. A tree covered in trainers in Soham has caused a burning question in the town. Why exactly are they all up there? The tree near the skate park has a variety of footwear tied together and strung over its branches. One person on Soham Debate Facebook page said, I always figured it was something to do with a kids club. But somebody else suggested skaters chuck them there when they get a fresh pair. Another person wrote, I heard years ago it was a sign that you could get drugs in the area. Not sure if that's the case. But that theory was shot down by another debater who said the theory was laughable. He said maybe it's the fact that when old bills show up and you get pocketful, then you have reason to climb that tree. Just get him my shoes, officer, then obviously hide him in the wrong pair. Lol. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to say there, or if even English is the first language. Another observer wrote, it's because Soham is like Compton, LA, where they throw shoes up to signify the death of a rival gang member. Hashtag ghetto life. One woman said there was one pair up there for ages, and I'm guessing others saw it and decided to chuck theirs up there too. Some of them are expensive trainers. I wouldn't be a happy parent. Now, according to Wikipedia, shoe dangling or shoe flinging is rife across the globe. The shoe fetish in the Norderstraße or Northern Street in Flensburg, Germany, is named by the New Yorker travel magazine Travel as one of the world's strangest streets. Ideas touted on the Wikipedia site include: bullies steal a pair of shoes and put them in a place where they are unlikely to be retrieved. A practical joke played on drunkards. A newsletter from the mayor of Los Angeles, California feared it showed sites where drugs were sold, or worse, gang turf. In some cultures, shoes are flung to commemorate the end of a school year or a forthcoming marriage as part of a rite of passage. Some militaries throw military boots painted a bright colour as a rite of passage on completing basic training or leaving the service. Shoes tied together and hanging from power lines, which sounds a bit precarious to me.
Yeah.
Or tree branches signify that someone has died, probably getting electrocuted hanging them over power lines. The shoes belong to the dead person. The reason they are hanging is that when the dead person's spirit returns, it will walk high above the ground closer to heaven. This all sounds a bit voodoo.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Another theory suggests shoes hanging from telephone wires signal someone leaving the neighbourhood onto bigger and better things. There are currently at least 76 shoe trees in the United States. In many Arab cultures, it is considered an extreme insult to throw a shoe at someone. In 2008, Iraqi cameraman Muntada al-Zaidi threw two shoes at United States President George W. Bush while he was visiting Baghdad and was arrested and incarcerated. Or it may be quite simply that shoe flinging is a way to get rid of shoes that are no longer wanted or uncomfortable or do not fit. What do you think of the Soham shoe tree then? Do you have any theories as to why they're up there?
Well, I'm going to tread carefully here. Let's look at it. I mean, I've got pairs of shoes that I don't really wear, but if it's a muddy day or I'm going to go walking, to Roswell Pits or somewhere, I might put them on. But I wouldn't throw them in a tree like one of the parents said. They're pretty expensive, and why would you put them up there?
I think there's a flaw in doing that as well.
Yeah.
I want to ditch these shoes. I'll chuck them up in the tree where everyone else throws them up in the shoe tree. They're up there. Good job. How the hell am I going to walk home now? I'm going to do it in my socks.
Yeah, you've got to bring another pair, haven't you, I guess? You've
got to have or perhaps it's like a shoe exchange. You sling your old ones up there, then go up there and get yourself a new pair.
Yeah, and they're clean. I guess also, it's easy to sort of find out who owned the original shoe with the size and stuff like that. You don't need to be Columbo, do you?
Yeah, I mean, what if I haven't got your size and you're looking to exchange? I mean, yeah. I've got a photograph of it here. Obviously, that's no good for the podcast. But some of them are quite high up in this tree, so they must have, thrown them up there with some welly to get him right up into the tree that high.
Yes, with some welly. Oh, brilliant. Well, what about clown shoes? That's going to be a dead giveaway, isn't it?
What, clown shoes?
Yeah, a pair of clown shoes like the canoes.
We've had a spate of clown attacks recently, haven't we? So perhaps, that's a good way for them to get rid of incriminating evidence. We've got all these. I'm not really sure. I mean, Soham can be a bit of a ropey place, as you know. Let's not beat around the bush there, as we know. But I think to compare it to Compton and Los Angeles is a bit of a stretch. I mean, I think perhaps there's a few of the local kids would like that comparison to be made, but I think that's a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
A Soham skateboarder may have come up with the answer, and of all the things I've read through, this kid has written is probably the most intelligent suggestion just thus far. Harry Taylor commented on Wednesday, January the 18th, 2017, "The tree is full of shoes because of the skate park. Skateboard's grid tape is much like sandpaper and very abrasive, and after a while of doing tricks can ruin your shoes. When skate shoes need to be replaced, instead of throwing them away, skaters throw them up in the tree. I'm not sure how it began, but it soon became a tradition to Soham skateboarders and other riders like myself. A few pairs of my own shoes are up there." I think that probably sounds like the most valid thing we've got so far on this.
Well, it does. I think, like a footballer who had lucky boots, scored a few goals, but they're worn out. Perhaps you don't want to throw them in the bin. You just want to put them somewhere where you can see them in the future.
Yeah, in a tree, the shoe tree.
The shoe tree. I'm sure there's a novel in this somewhere, Dave. The shoe tree.
The shoe tree of Soham, the Soham shoe tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be, couldn't it?
Well, I don't know what Chris Packham of Springwatch would say, but maybe they're good nesting sites for birds.
Could do, couldn't they?
Yeah, you never know. You got a hollow vessel where they can make a nest, so it might be right. Might be a bit smelly, mine, but
I'm sure they wouldn't mind too much, would they? They'd bed it out with sort of grass and straw and twigs and sort of typical nesting materials, feathers in there. I mean, I don't imagine a bird's nest is a particularly sweet-smelling place anyway. They're going to fill up with guano within the first few weeks, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, I don't know. So there you have it, the Soham shoe tree. This one comes from the Ely Standard, dated the 22nd of January 2017. It's via their correspondent, John Elworthy, who's done a few pieces now that we've commented on.
Is he the head reporter? I think he is.
Possibly. That's relevant that he's the head reporter for this. A hair salon at Sutton has been forced to close temporarily after a car crash through the front window.
Wow.
Sydney Miller Hair Salon at the Brook issued a statement saying they were simply glad no one was injured. The salon is closed until further notice. The statement from the salon said that, "I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that helped us. It's times like this when you realise what lovely people we have in Sutton. My client, Roz, was fab with first aid. And Paula too. So we've got a Roz and a Paula in a hair salon. That's no great surprise. We had so much support from clients and friendly neighbours offering dinner, heaters, storage and even socks." I don't know what they needed socks for. "We don't know how long we'll be closed, but we'll keep everyone updated." I mean, sitting there, you're getting your hair done or what have you, a hairdo, a hair job. I don't know what happens in a hair salon. All I know is that it seems to be expensive. And all of a sudden, someone's car comes through the front window. It must be quite a scary experience.
Yeah, it must be, yeah.
I mean, if I was sitting in there in a barber shop and that happened, I'd call that a close shave, wouldn't you?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, you'd be a bit shocked when you see the headlights, wouldn't you?
Yeah, when it stopped, you think, Christ, he cut it fine. Yeah, I mean, a hair salon, I don't know. I mean, my missus sometimes goes to one. She'll get a do done. How much did that cost? 50, 60 quid. Well, it looks nice. You seem to like it. But it only ever looks like that once. It's like a temporary piece of art, isn't it? A hairstyle.
Exactly. And then, a couple of days later, it goes back to how it was, doesn't it?
Yeah. You think, well, is it really worth it?
My missus had her hair done recently. Yeah, and as you say, it's quite expensive. Then she went back and had a coloured job. And and returned and complained that she looked more like a 50-year-old. So,
Was she asked for the blue rinse or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like Marge Simpson. So I don't see obviously I haven't got much hair myself, so I don't really see the point of paying out a lot of money for it. So.
Yeah. What do you think this was? Do you think it's perhaps just an accident, like a brake failure or something? Someone trying to ram raid a Sutton hair salon?
I don't know. Maybe it was a problem with the head gasket. I don't know. But we've had quite a few of these in recent years, haven't we?
What, cars into shops?
Yeah, around this area. But one of my favourite stories was, the late great George Michael. He had an
Oh
accident.
yeah, I
didn't
know
he?
about this one. Yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
he,
It's
he
still
drove
funny.
into a shop, didn't he? And
It's a
local
Lord Brett.
hooligans, when the
Yeah.
car was still there, they wrote "Wham" on the car.
Hit the
didn't
dent.
they? Yeah. So that just shows a bit of British humour there. I think that's quite good.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. What local news have you got?
I've just got one here. From a local village called Three Holes.
Right.
Do you know it very well?
I'm familiar with it, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know it really well, but I know of it. I mean, there's plenty of holes around this area, let's face it. I mean, everywhere's a hole. Yeah, no, go on then.
Okay, so a man arrested for impersonating police officer with blue lights on his car in Three Holes. He was also found with an offensive weapon yesterday. This is February the 2nd, so quite recently. In Three
Have they
Holes.
said what the offensive weapon is?
No, I haven't said what it is. It might be a baseball bat or something like that. Maybe something worse. But it was around
baton or a taser or
yeah, something like that. It was around 2:10 p.m. he got arrested, and he was taken to Kings Lynn Police Investigation Centre for questioning. Police have not commented on his intentions and are investigating the incident. The arrest follows a similar incident in South Norfolk last week. A woman was driving along Kenninghall Road when a car with blue flashing lights pulled up behind her. The male driver of the car then approached her passenger door and gestured to her to put the window down. He then asked her to get out of the car, but the woman refused as she did not feel comfortable and agreed to get out of the car in a well-lit area of East Harlyn. But the man never met. Yeah, but the man never met her, and officers later told the woman the driver was not a policeman. So a spokesman for the police said they're investigating if the two cases are linked.
Could be. I mean, obviously, there's a bit of a giveaway about this guy. I mean, this woman was obviously suspicious enough to refuse to do that, which she perhaps wouldn't have been if she felt it was a bona fide police officer. So obviously, something didn't seem right about this guy.
It sounds like a Fenland vigilante, doesn't it?
You think so?
I mean, he was probably wearing Primark version of a police outfit or something like that.
Or some poor kissogram rendition, and probably had suspenders on it or something. Sort of a cross between Juliet Bravo and a burlesque dancer.
A Juliet Bravo and Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, an illegal offence to impersonate a police officer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, is this like a kissogram out on a run or something? I don't know. Sounds quite serious, though, doesn't it, really?
Well, it doesn't. It sounds a bit more sinister, like a lonely sort of single lady driving alone, getting run over by a guy impersonating a police officer. Yeah, it's a bit suspicious.
Yeah, it sounds very targeting. Yeah, I mean, impersonate a police officer. I'd like to know what the offensive weapon that this person was caught with was.
Yeah.
If they've got genuine police kit, how comes they got hold of it, or whether it was just imitation stuff. I mean, obviously, like we said, this woman was obviously suspicious and quite sensibly, actually, from the sounds of it, refused to get out of her car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. So, all of our local listeners and what have you in the area, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for bogus coppers. Or was it just that the police officer was like, it was the wrong sort of police uniform? Did it look like one of the Keystone cops or something, sort of a blue thing with sort of flared sleeves and legs? Or was it like an American sheriff or something? Did it have like a pair of aviator sunglasses, like Buford T. Justice or something like that? But Roscoe P. Coltrane, it just didn't fit in rural Norfolk. Or it might do, actually, thinking about it. We're in hot pursuit, Flash.
I'm looking here. It's quite near Snetterton racetrack.
Yeah.
So it's out that way, not just past Thetford.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit like Boggy Creek anyway, isn't it? I mean, there's some rare and interesting types out there. Yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled, local Hot Wampa listeners, and make sure if a copper pulls you over, it is a bona fide, genuine copper, and, exercise a bit of common sense out there. But, yeah, it's certainly an interesting story, like you say, recent. It'd be interesting if this guy goes on trial away. I mean, the police have him. What comes out, what his intentions were, and how he went about it.
And what has he done before? That would be interesting as well.
He's impersonated people before.
Esther Ransom and stuff like that,
Oh, we shouldn't laugh really because it could be quite serious. Okay, I think that's really all we've got, isn't it?
I think it is for this time, Dave. Episode 39, there it is.
That was over pretty quick.
Yeah, I think we covered, Spaceballs in as much detail as possible. I mean, the Star Wars news was quite good this week, and 3 good local news stories. So,
yeah, what are we going to do for the next one then?
I don't know. 40 is quite a significant number, so we'll have to think of something good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know what I've got stashed on my Sky Plus planner. We'll have to have a talk about that in the intervention between the two. So yeah, it's good to be back with the pair of us doing a normal show. Our first normal show of 2017. Look forward to more bedlam and antics from further episodes. Don't forget to nominate us in the Star Wars Podcast Awards. So, if you want us to go in there and break through the glass ceiling, then that's only going to happen if we get nominated.
Yeah. Please do.
The downside to that is if we actually do get nominated, we're then going to have to go around to everyone again and try and con them to vote for us. So it's like a rounds thing, isn't it? You've got to get nominated to get in, and then you've got to get voted to win it. So if you've been hit once by us, if we actually make it, which I doubt we will, but it's worth a punt, we're going to have to go around and try and get everyone to go through the whole process again in a ballot.
I could just see us on Look East, Dave, with a fake police escort going through Norfolk by celebrities.
I'll stretch Humvee, stretch Focus.
One thing I forgot to mention is 2017 is the year of the Running Man, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to my yellow jumpsuit and getting in there with Laughlin and the rest of them. Whitman, Price and Haddad.
That's it. Didn't you post something about it becoming a real game show or something?
No, it's not. But I just speculated that this is the year that it will be. But who's Killian? So we need a game show host like him.
That's got to be Chris Tarrant or someone like that, hasn't it?
He's been off telly for a while, hasn't he? So
well, here's his comeback. Justin Lee Collins, perhaps he could do it.
All those shamed ex-presenters. Dominic Diamond, that'd be funny.
Yeah, Bruce Forsyth would probably make a good Killian.
Yeah, someone like that. And where would you set the game show? Somewhere a bit urban and run down. Like, I don't know. I daresn't say Hull. Hull's got its own problems with old Stinker up there, but somewhere like that, where we've got an old industrial area where we could set up a game show.
I don't know. I think we could use areas of different places. I mean, obviously we've got the Soham skate park where all the contestants that Sub-Zero takes out there have the shoes thrown up in the tree.
The tree of shame.
Yeah, you've got Dynamo chasing them through 3 holes dressed as a police officer.
That'd be good, yeah.
Who else have we got? What's the odd job guy? What's the ice hockey guy?
Yeah, Sub-Zero. So that'd be something like
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, that'd be Peterborough Ice Rink or something like that.
Yeah. Who's the guy with a flamethrower? Is it Fireball?
Fireball, yeah.
Yeah, he'd obviously come crashing through the hair salon after you and incinerate you. I think we've got a set for the Running Man straight away, haven't we?
Well, I think we'll make a trailer for that one this year, Dave. Running Man.
We use Old Ely College. Half of that's condemned, isn't it?
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Running through there with dogs chasing us and stuff.
Yeah, the old sort of upper floors and that, like home economics and stuff. I think you can't even get up there anymore. It's unsafe now. They've closed it all. Yeah. I think it's only the first couple of floors in the old Needham's block that they use now. I think above it, it's just like a sort of nuclear wasteland in the floors, sort of rubble and bodies and skeletons, and there's not much
going. Mr. Gordon and Mr. Lees and people like that.
Hopefully McCarthy.
Yeah, they never made it out. But we think they're chilling in the Maui sun.
No, they went on this game show. Okay, so that was 39. We'll be back in a fortnight. God knows what this one will sound like. It's a new recording concept for us via Skype, so over quickly though. I'm surprised about that. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Take care.
Dear me, what are those things coming out of her nares?
Hey, watch my helmet. Spaceballs?
Oh, shit. There goes the planet.